If I had known the man I would fall for was already married, and my direct boss, I probably would have never walked into that office that day. But love doesn't ask for permission, and guilt doesn't wait for an invitation. My name is Nora Mitchell, 30 years old, a marketing executive at Veltrex Systems, a tech firm in New York. I've always been the logical type, the kind of woman who planned her life carefully and stayed away from messy relationships. But then, he appeared, Ethan Blake, 38, our Vice President of Strategic Development. The first time I met him was on a gloomy Monday morning when I accidentally spilled coffee on his printed reports. I panicked. He smiled. Reports can be reprinted. Smiles like that? Hard to come by, he said. That was the moment my heart tripped. At first, I thought it was just a harmless crush. I didn't know anything about his personal life. Ethan was always professional at work. But the late-night meetings, the quiet teamwork, the way his eyes lingered on my face when I laughed, all of it started to blur the lines. One rainy evening, he offered to drive me home. We didn't speak for the entire 40-minute ride. But the silence, the soft glow of the dashboard lights on his profile, I knew I was slipping into something dangerous. I looked him up later. That's when I discovered it. Ethan was married. His wife's name was Samantha, an art teacher. They had a 6-year-old son named Aiden. I should have stopped. But my heart was no longer listening. When he asked me, "Have you ever wondered? What if we'd met at a different time?"
Ikne noting kult eva bisesame again.
We hadn't kissed. We hadn't even touched for more than a second. But I felt like we were cheating, just with our eyes. And he knew it too. Every day, I felt like I was living two lives. By day, I was Nora, the professional, the sharp one, the woman with boundaries. But every time Ethan's eyes met mine during a meeting, another world opened. A silent, forbidden world that belonged only to us. I tried to distance myself. I stopped initiating conversations, avoided working late, skipped group lunches. But the more I tried, the more present he became. His name in my inbox, his voice in conference calls, his presence in meetings. He was everywhere, like a heartbeat I couldn't turn off. One late evening, I stayed back to finish a presentation. The office was nearly empty. I was alone in a conference room on the 11th floor when I heard footsteps. It was Ethan. "I know you're avoiding me," he said, his voice low and tired. "I'm sorry for making things difficult." I didn't know what to say. But when he turned to leave, I stopped him. "It's not your fault," I whispered. "It's mine. For feeling this way." We sat there, under the soft glow of the ceiling lights. Then he told me, his marriage had been dead for years. He and his wife were distant, coexisting only for their son's sake. That he hadn't felt truly alive until he met me. I wanted to believe him. But fear twisted inside me like a knot. As he stood to leave, he said softly, "If you tell me to stop, I will. But if you say just one word to keep going, I won't turn back." And I said nothing. I just looked at him, with eyes full of everything I wasn't ready to confess. I thought I could stay silent. But hearts don't stay quiet for long. Especially when every night, I stared at my phone, wondering if Ethan was thinking of me the way I thought of him. It was Friday night, 10:47 p.m., when the message came. No explanations.
Just, I'm here.
I knew exactly what he meant. And I knew what I was about to do would change everything. Still, I grabbed my coat, stepped out into the November chill, and climbed into his car parked just down the street. We didn't go to a hotel. We didn't say much. He just drove to a quiet riverside road near the Hudson, where the only sound was the wind and the dark moving water. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said, gripping the steering wheel. I didn't answer. I turned to look at him. And in that instant, he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't frantic. But it tasted like sin. It tasted like something we'd been avoiding for too long. That night, I didn't go home. I fell asleep in his arms, in the back seat of his car. No one said it was love. But neither of us denied it was real. The next morning, I woke up first. Sunlight filtered through the windshield, catching the silver strands near his temple. And my heart ached. What was I doing? He had a family. A child. A wife, though he swore they'd grown distant long ago. But what about me? Was I the other woman?
A Distraktion?
An escape? Or was I building a prison for myself with no door out?
I steppet out of the car and inhalet the crisp, cold air.
I needed time. But time waits for no one, and truth waits even less. 2 weeks after that night, Ethan and I were doing our best to act normal at the office. No one seemed to suspect anything, or so we thought. We messaged each other through an encrypted app. Met briefly during off-site meetings. Ethan went home on time. I returned to my apartment. No traces. No mess. Then came that Monday morning. I logged into my computer, and there it was, an email.
No Sender. No Name.
Just a chilling line in the subject field.
I know everything about you and Ethan.
My fingers trembled as I opened it. Do you think you're the first? Ethan has cheated before. With another colleague. You're just the next player in his little game. If you don't believe me, ask his wife, Samantha. She knows. I couldn't breathe. I sat frozen for hours, unable to focus. I didn't look at Ethan once.
4 Pulset trug me.
That night, I called him. He picked up almost immediately. Are you okay? He asked, voice full of concern. I forwarded him the email. A while later, he replied, I know who sent this. It's Linda, a former colleague. She had feelings for me, but I never returned them. I wanted to believe him. I truly did. But a part of me kept whispering. Why me? Was I just another placeholder in the spaces between? So I did the unthinkable. I went to find Samantha. I stood in front of a gray house in Brooklyn, the one where Ethan's wife and son lived. I clutched an envelope with the address I had tracked down. But I didn't knock. I just stood there, staring at the warm glow behind the windows. And then I saw it.
Ethan, holding his son, smiling.
Samantha beside them, her hand on his shoulder. A perfect family. A world I was never part of. I turned away. Tears spilled into my palms. I was in love with a man I could never have. I tried to leave him. But my heart didn't follow. And Ethan. He never let me disappear. He always found me, even when I was hiding my best. I cut off contact. No texts. No calls. I didn't reply to personal emails. At work, I requested a departmental transfer, citing burnout and the need for change. I avoided every floor, every hallway, where he might be. But avoiding someone in the same building is never enough. 3 days later, I stepped out of the elevator, and there he was, leaning against the wall, hands in his pockets. His face looked tired, but his eyes still burned with that quiet desperation. I can't let this end like that, Nora. I lowered my gaze, trying to walk past him. But he gently touched my arm.
Tomorrow night.
7 p.m. If you still care, come to our spot by the Hudson. If you don't, I'll understand. He walked away, not waiting for my response. The next evening, I stood in front of the mirror for nearly an hour. Dressed up, then changed. Applied makeup, then wiped it off. Finally, I left in the simplest clothes I had, and a heart that wouldn't stop trembling. Ethan was already there. He didn't speak when I arrived. Just gestured for me to sit beside him, by the still, dark water. I talked to Samantha, he began. I told her everything. Not to hurt her. But because I'm tired of living 2 lives.
I satt kvitli. Tiers fell vitut varning.
She and we've agreed to separate. Peacefully. For Aiden. He'll stay with her during the week, with me on weekends. I didn't know whether to feel relief or grief. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he continued.
I know what I put you trug.
But I am asking you, for a real chance. No hiding.
No past holding US hostage.
I looked at him, the man who'd wrecked my balance for months. The man I'd hated for being married. And the one who made my chest ache at the thought of losing him. I didn't answer that night. I just took his hand, for the first time, without fear of being seen. Under the soft glow of the riverside lights, we sat in silence, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something new to begin. We had started over, slowly but sincerely. Ethan moved into a small apartment on the Upper West Side. I visited him on weekends.
No more heeding.
No more flinching at phone calls in the middle of the night. But Ethan had spoken to leadership. He told them he was separated, that we were serious. I finally felt safe. Until that Tuesday morning. I arrived early for a major presentation. As I passed the conference room, door slightly ajar, I heard her voice.
She's so easy to play. Ethan, you're still pulling the same stunt.
I thought you were done after the last one.
My blood ran cold. I stepped closer.
Linda, yes Linda, stood across from Ethan. He didn't deny a word. Just sighed. I told her just enough to keep her hooked, Ethan said. Didn't expect her to fall this hard. Samantha still has no clue.
The ervanished from my lungs.
I pushed the door open. They froze. What did you just say, Ethan? I asked. My voice shook, but my eyes didn't. He didn't answer. Linda smirked.
I warned you.
But you didn't listen. You thought he picked you for love.
I said nothing.
Just nodded, like some part of me had always known. I turned and walked out. Never looked back. 3 days later, I resigned.
No goodbye emails.
No texts. I ended it all. A month passed. Then I received a letter. A real letter, not an email, not a message. Ethan's handwriting.
Nora.
If you're reading this, you still care. I don't have excuses. But everything I said, the looks, the touch, the nights by the river, was real. I was too weak to give everything up.
You're the only one who made ML want to be better.
And the only one who saw that I couldn't be.
I'm sorry for dragging you into my mess.
I tore the letter into pieces and let them scatter in the wind, from the rooftop of my new apartment in Brooklyn. I was no longer the girl who loved recklessly. I was Nora, 30, betrayed, heartbroken, but unbroken. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.